All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm Carolyn Hymas, and I'm the Associate Director of Alumnics and Family Engagement at CalArts. And joining us today is Natasha Jones from the Patty Disney Center for Life and Work. She's going to be leading us through our talk on networking strategies. Natasha, thank you so much for being here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and take myself off screen and pass it over to Natasha to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, so today, well, firstly, hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Jones, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Life and Work Advisor in the Center for Life and Work. And today I will be talking all about networking strategies. A little overview of what I'll be talking about. I'm going to talk generally about the Center for Life and Work and the different resources that we have. Then I'll be getting into different networking myths and sort of the accompanying truths, and then into general networking principles, best practices, then how to connect with both your existing network and also how to connect with strangers, and then get into informational interviews as a great networking strategy, and then closing up with my part on following up and relationship maintenance. And then we'll be passing it back to Carolyn, who will be demonstrating how to use CalArts Connect to network. So that's what we got on the agenda. So a little bit generally about the Patty Disney Center for Life and Work. Our mission here is that we provide a variety of resources for students and alums to help them chart their paths to success and sustain themselves as creative leaders in the world. So a handful of different ways that we do that is through our advising, also through Fulbright advising, through different workshops, much like this one, with the different topics. We also have done academic courses in the past. We also have an internship program, which is not very relevant for our audience, but that's okay. And we also do employer events as well. So we will bring host information sessions or educational workshops with different employers or just different external entities to CalArts. So that's a little about us. Now I wanted to get into some of the resources that we have online that you can access anytime. So we have a lot of different resources housed on our page on the CalArts website. So if you go to just the general calarts.edu, and then under Life at CalArts, we have the Center for Life and Work here. And then below that, specifically under this Job Search Support tab, we have a lot of different resources on that page, such as these various informational guides. So if you ever are feeling lost with how to put together like a resume or cover letter, or how to prepare for an interview, or how to write a thank you letter, we have all of these guides that link out to 2 to 4 page PDFs with information on their respective topics. So those can be accessed anytime. Also, if you scroll further down on that page, we have this list of external job boards. So these are mostly all creative industry focused. So if you're looking for jobs and you're trying like Indeed or these larger general job boards and you're feeling like you're not finding as many creative positions, we've collected here just a bunch of websites that are very creative industry focused. So they're really good places to be searching. And another job search resource that we have through the Center for Life and Work is Compass at CalArts. So Compass is our CalArts exclusive job board, so it's only accessible by the CalArts community. So if you have not visited it yet, I highly recommend you do. The URL is just compass.calarts.edu. And then you will sign in to make an alumni account with whatever email you want. It doesn't have to be your CalArts email. And then you'll be able to search for jobs and see any announcements or upcoming events that we post on that website. And then finally, a last virtual resource that I wanted to share is our YouTube page. So the Center for Life and Work has a YouTube page. It's kind of small, but we've been recording all of our workshops that we've been doing virtually and putting them here. But you will find that if you go to this, the YouTube channel, you'll only see these 5 videos. That's because those are the only ones that we have publicly viewable, because the other ones, speakers requested that they be unlisted. They just don't want to be publicly viewable. So if you want to see all of those workshops, there are a good number of them. Like at the bottom of the slide here, it says you can go to compass.calarts.edu And then under the tab that says resources at the left-hand side, if you kind of hover over that or click it, another little menu will come up and you'll click document library. And then there will be a document in that library that says fall 2020 workshop recordings. And there you can find a variety of our different workshops that we posted. So with that, now I'll be getting into really the content of the presentation. So networking, what we're talking about. I would like to ask for a little participation really quick. If you could all put in the chat just a word or a phrase, anything that comes to mind when you see or hear the word networking. Just kind of want to take a temperature check of where we all are, thoughts on networking. So please use the chat for this one, not the Q&A. Nice, sometimes cheesy, definitely. Social mixers, meeting new people. Show up and let the world know who I am, nice. Net of connections made through professional experience or educational experiences, definitely. Friends and colleagues, nice. Sometimes it gives me a squeamish feeling, definitely, yes, definitely. I think there are a lot of negative connotations with networking that hopefully we will work to dispel a little bit during this presentation. And then chatting or meeting with people to exchange resources, nice. Yay, great. Okay, thank you all so much for sharing that. CalArts Mafia, haha. Yes, the CalArts Mafia is a great group to network with and is already kind of automatically a network that you're a part of. So it's a really good, good one to take advantage of. So yes, thank you all so much. I'm happy to see mostly kind of like positive associations with networking. Other times when I've given this this presentation, there is much more negative associations. So that's great that we're kind of mostly positive, but even for some of the ones like seeming cheesy or feeling squeamish, that's totally okay to feel that way. And again, hopefully when we kind of talk through all of this, networking will feel less negative slightly. Okay, so thank you all for sharing and participating in that chat and kind of seeing where we're coming from with our kind of preconceived thoughts on networking. So, oops. Okay, I do want to give a sort of disclaimer or preface to this presentation in that with networking, there are infinite number of reasons that people have for networking, different goals that people might have. So two kind of big ones that are common are firstly just networking to find contacts and connections and to literally just build your network and have more people know you, you know more people. And then a different reason that people might network is to find clients. So I just wanted to say that with this presentation, I'm really only focusing on the former, so more just literally building your network, building relationships, and I won't talk as much about finding clients because you'll just kind of be talking about different things when you're doing that. So just to give this presentation some focus, it's just going to be about building connections and kind of more that broad goal of networking. Okay, so now I want to jump into some networking myths and the accompanying truths. So the first myth that I feel like addresses some of the comments that were in the chat earlier is that networking is slimy or inauthentic. And the truth to that is that it totally might be true. If the only time that you're reaching out or the only time people are reaching out to you is when you need something for them or they need something from you. So networking, I will say it at least 70 more times throughout this presentation, is really just about building authentic relationships with people. Another way that you can kind of think about it, and something that someone said in the chat was, it's really just about making friends, sort of at a basic level. But kind of, you know, friends in your industry, friends that, you know, would be beneficial to have a relationship with, possibly for other future benefits. So really, if networking is sort of a negative word for you, you can kind of just replace it with building relationships or building friendships. That's really all networking is. Okay, and then the second myth that I wanted to address or talk about is that networking only happens in specific formal contexts. I believe someone said something about this too in the chat. But the truth to that is that networking can happen anywhere, anywhere that you can talk to people. This can be, of course, in physical space, but also in any virtual space. You just have to be able to communicate and talk to start forming those relationships. So networking is not only like done in suits at like conferences or networking events or anything. It really truly can happen anywhere. Okay, then the third myth that I want to talk about is that networking is for extroverts. I feel like this is a very common perception, but the truth is that, as cheesy as it sounds, networking is for everyone and anyone. All networking requires is one-on-one conversation, asking questions, actively listening, and anyone at all can do these things, even if you're not the most extroverted person. Sometimes people that really are more focused on asking questions, like they might not even necessarily talk that much about themselves and just get another person to talk about themselves. Those are often very great networkers, because people like to talk about themselves generally. So if you can make a person, you can ask a lot of questions of a person, it can make them feel good and feel like they had a great conversation with you, even though they were the one doing most of the talking. So anyone can network. And now the final myth that I want to talk about in this part of the presentation is that networking is unnecessary when your work or experience can speak for itself. So I do want to say this is can be a harmful idea. So if you are thinking this, while it totally makes sense that people would think this, it is just not the case. There's this kind of stat that different researchers have found that 85% of jobs are obtained through networking. So this just means that the jobs are obtained through personal connection and through knowing people. And there are really a lot of people out there in the world that want to help you, and are like ready to meet other artists and kind of help them out, collaborate. But they can't do that if they don't know you. So really a big part of networking, as I was saying before, is just to increase the number of people that know you and that you know, so that you can have more people to like ask for advice, for favors, for again, potential future benefit. If you know more people, those odds are higher. So yes, now I want to get into just some general networking principles, just different tips and best practices. So firstly, when you are like networking and just connecting with people, starting these conversations, it's always easiest, in my opinion, to start with the people that are already in your network and kind of asking them if they know of any other people that you might be able to connect with. Seeing if anyone knows anyone in an area that you want to learn more about, or working at a company that you're interested in, or like working in a certain position that you're interested in. So just starting with those that you already know and kind of asking if they know anyone that they can introduce you to, just because when there is that personal connection, it's just usually more likely that people will get back to you. Which is not to say that strangers won't get back to you, and I will spend some time later in the presentation talking about how to connect and network with strangers. But again, just easier to start with the people that are already in your network. And just another networking principle is that in addition to thinking about like what you can get from your network and what they might have to offer you, you also want to think about what you can do for your network. You want, if, for example, you know a couple people that are doing similar work that don't know each other and you think they would benefit from knowing each other, just introduce them. That's a really, really great thing to do. And, you know, you're helping them build their networks by making these new connections. And if, you know, kind of general karma things, if you do good things for people, you know, you can kind of hope that some of that good will come back and that maybe they might do a favor for you in the future. Um, and then just another principal tip is that it's good to rekindle connections. So if there are people like your former classmates from CalArts, faculty that you maybe haven't talked to in a little while, um, past coworkers or anything, just people that you've like had a good relationship with, but you just haven't really talked to recently. It's really, really good practice to try to, if you're the type that needs to set goals in order to talk to people, setting goals for yourself, like checking in with 1 to 2 people per month. It doesn't have to be a huge lift, but just keeping those connections in your network warm is super, super beneficial. Because if you are like, say, in the position where you're going to be job searching soon or looking for new gigs or something, it's much easier to ask favors of people if you have that like positive foundational relationship to stand on. And it's, always, it tends to be a stronger foundation if you've kind of talked to them more recently than not. So yeah, so just making sure that you keep those connections warm and that you are kind of checking in with people every so often so that it's not like you're not asking someone for a favor like a few years after you've talked to them at all. So yeah, so just keeping those connections warm, rekindling them is a really, really good practice. Okay. Other principles and tips, just to be personal, of course, in these conversations. Again, it's just about building relationships. So it doesn't, your conversations don't only have to be like always professionally focused, because there's not too many relationships that we have that are like solely professional that don't enter like the personal realm at all. So it's okay to be talking about personal topics. You also, kind of connected to a previous point, you want to be generous and kind of share things with your network without expecting things in return. You might, if you see like an interesting article or a resource or hear about an event coming up or see a job posting that you think someone would be interested in, just reaching out and sending those things to them is really useful. And just really, a lot of these tips are really just to help leave the most positive impression that you can with people and kind of keep yourself at the top of their mind. So these are all just practices to kind of leave people thinking well of you, which kind of would make them more likely to help you out in the future, possibly. And you can also definitely always ask your network for help or advice. It's okay to be genuine with people. That is again part of building relationships. And if you find yourself that you're asking people for help and advice, and you're not sure like what you can give to them or kind of what you can do for them in return, just often just expressing gratitude is like payment enough. Um, I hopefully you all know that it feels good usually to help people. So just giving that good feeling to people and like letting them know that they really helped you is so valuable and also leaves a positive impression of you to them. And again, for the maybe 10th time, the focus of networking is on building relationships. Again, for potential future benefits. Yeah, some general networking principles. Okay, now I wanted to sort of give you a gift in a way. If this is just a very short like template that you might use to reach out to your existing network. So if when I was kind of talking about rekindling these connections, if maybe someone came to mind that you're thinking like, oh, I had a really good relationship with them, I just haven't talked to them in a while. Here is a template for how you might reach out to them. So just very simply, hi, their name. This pandemic has me branching out and thinking about how to reconnect with folks. And I realized it's been far too long since we last talked. How are you doing? How are things in city? How are things at company, at school? Whatever the case may be. And I do just wanted to cite my source. I got this template from a YouTube creator called Self-Made Millennial. So I did not come up with this myself. But when I saw it, I really loved it, thought it was super easy. And you can just kind of copy and paste this, fill in the blanks, and send it out to a handful of people. And then you've already gotten those relationships kind of started again and refresh them. Okay, so that was how to reach out to your existing network. Now I want to talk a little bit about how to reach out to strangers, people that you have not met before. Um, so I'm kind of imagining a scenario where you kind of are familiar with someone's work, or you like look them up on LinkedIn, or you follow them on social media or something, and maybe you want to talk to them, want to ask them some questions. So when you're reaching out, you always, of course, want to be genuine, especially if you're someone who maybe you've been following an artist and you're familiar with their work and you really love it, you're a big fan. You can just say that when you're reaching out. Say like, hi, I've been following you for a while, really love your work. And then also you want to be curious, because ideally, if you're reaching out to someone, it's to lead to a conversation so that they can be a more deep part of your network and you can get to know them better, they can get to know you better. So you want to be curious too, and just be asking those questions. You can also, a very specific thing you can ask for is an informational interview, which I will get into in the next slide into detail. But yes, another kind of tip when you're reaching out to strangers, just in general too, not necessarily even with like the purpose of networking or connecting, but just in general, reaching out to people. If you send out one communication, one email, one message, whatever it is, and you don't get a response, follow up. You can wait 1 to 2 weeks or so, but definitely if you haven't heard anything and you're like really interested in connecting and talking to this person, follow up. People may have like every intention of getting back to your email. Maybe they read it and they're like, oh man, okay, I really gotta follow up with this. And they just get busy and forget. So that's nothing that you've done, that's just on them. And they might really appreciate that follow-up, that reminder to get back to you. And then if there's still no response after a second reach out, you can try to reach out a third time, like after another 1 to 2 weeks. But then if you still haven't gotten a response after 3 communications, then you might consider that they're probably not going to get back to you, which is okay. You can only ever ask and reach out and try. And yeah, and that doesn't again mean anything bad that they're not responding. They just might not have the bandwidth at the moment. Might have changed their email or something. So don't take offense. I want to say don't take it personally if people don't get back. Sometimes things just don't work out and the connections just don't happen. Which is why it's important to try to reach out to more people so that you can have higher chances of getting things back. All right, now getting into an informational interview specifically. So what is an informational interview? It's just an informal conversation with someone in an industry or position, company that you're interested in. You're just having a conversation with them, trying to learn more about what it's like to really do that type of work or work in that type of industry at that company, whatever the case is. And it's also, of course, a very, very great way to build your professional network. I've heard stories from people that when they reached out to people at different companies for informational interviews, they found that person really helpful and just kind of maintained a relationship over time with them, like checked in with them every so often. And then that person that they asked for an informational interview from, like kind of became a mentor of theirs and someone that they kept in contact with for a long time. So you never know what can come of these conversations, and it may be that it's just that conversation, and that's it. That's totally fine too. But there could be a lot of potential future benefit that can come from these conversations and these new connections. And then if you're wondering what you should ask or what you should talk about in an informational interview, I have here this handout also by the Self-Made Millennial YouTube channel that just, I really love it. I think it's like very clear and gives you a lot of ideas of what you might want to talk about or ask, and kind of gives you a little structure for the conversation. And then this is, of course, if you have your own questions and own things you want to ask, like, definitely ask those. But these are just in case you don't really know where to start, or don't know what kind of questions to ask. These are some good ones. And kind of the main topics you should be trying to discuss are firstly, of course, sharing a little information about yourself, and your goals, kind of what you're interested in, so that they can sort of kind of tailor the information that they're sharing to make sure that it's like, actually stuff that will be relevant to you. And then you can ask them questions about their role and their position, and really get a good understanding of what it is that they do. Um, and then after that, you can kind of try to ask about their path to get to where they are today. Um, and really, if you're kind of talking to a person that you eventually want to be doing the work that they're doing, understanding their path is super important. And also even asking questions around like if they know other common pathways that kind of lead to that position, or just questions around that. And then it's always good to kind of close asking for advice. So if they either have like any resources that they recommend you check out, or any people that they recommend that you talk with, or just anything that they recommend for you to do, can be super valuable, and just again kind of lead to that like snowball of like meeting more people, connecting with more people, adding more people to your network. So these are just some good kind of common questions to ask. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about how to ask for an informational interview. You want to just be very brief, clear, specific message where you're just introducing yourself, saying why you're reaching out at all. Which you do want to make very clear is that you just want to learn from them. You just want to have a conversation. You're not asking them like for a job or anything. When you don't really have a relationship foundation to stand on, you want to try to avoid like large favors asked for. So just asking if they have some time to answer some of your questions is a totally appropriate ask to have. And then I wanted to give you another kind of template for how you might ask, for how you might reach out to a stranger for an informational interview, to begin that relationship and begin that networking. So just an example, hi, their name, my name is your name, and I am sorry, this example, I was presenting this to students before, but just so you know, you can sub out that kind of second piece. Instead of saying I'm a student, I'm alum from CalArts, or I'm currently working as a blank at blank company, whatever the case may be, and saying I'm very interested in learning more about X, if that's their position, their company, whatever. May I ask you some questions about your experiences with X? Thank you for your time. So we're just giving a very quick introduction, saying, again, being very clear that we just want to ask them some questions about their experiences. And that's really it. And then I know that at the end, Carolyn will also be sharing a couple other templates for how you might reach out to people in different situations. So you'll have a variety to choose from. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about how to conduct an informational interview, and a little bit about the mechanics, sort of. So you, of course, want to research the person that you're going to be talking to, looking into their, again, company or organization, their work, their background, whatever it is. You can always try to look them up on LinkedIn, or see if they have a personal website or something. And also really good to remember that you're responsible for the meeting. So you are the one that's going to be asking questions most often. So you do want to come with those prepared, and kind of be ready to like lead the conversation, sort of. And kind of along with that, again, you want to be prepared with questions, but of course, like, it doesn't have to be a super formal thing where you're just like reading from a list of questions. It should kind of be an organic conversation too. So just kind of be prepared for that. And this should be a kind of short conversation, because this person is, doing you a favor. You don't want to take too much of their time. So aiming for like 15 to 30-minute conversation. It might be like over Zoom, a video call or a phone call or something. Or like when things kind of fully open up more, maybe it's to get coffee or whatever. But again, you do want to be respectful of their time and not take too much of it, unless they've agreed to like give you an hour and like you go to lunch or something. That's great too. But if no time is like decided on, keeping it short to be respectful of their time is better. Okay, and then some other tips for informational interviews. You want to kind of, like I said before, in the sense of a conversation, you want to also be prepared for them to ask you some questions about your interests, experience, goals. So you do want to kind of, before entering a conversation with someone, like do that reflective work with yourself so that you are kind of like ready to talk about these things. Then another tip, you always bolded, capitalized, could also be underlined, want to send some sort of thank you note or email after your conversation with them. They have done you a big favor by agreeing to have this conversation and sharing this information with you. So again, expressing gratitude is always a good little gift you can give to someone. And also kind of a piece of that, if they gave you any advice to like do something or to connect with someone else, and then if you do that and kind of follow through with their suggestion, let them know. Let them know how it went. That's a really easy way to sort of continue that relationship a little more beyond this one conversation. And then to kind of make them an even deeper and like more ingrained part of your network, you might give them career updates every so often or different things that you're working on. 6 months might be kind of often, unless you like really hit it off and like they become a good friend. But every year or so, just kind of checking in. If that's someone that you do kind of is important to you to keep in your network, then just checking in every so often so that you, again, kind of remain top of mind for them. Okay, so that was a lot about sort of how to connect and what to talk about. Now I wanted to talk about where to connect with people and kind of where to find these people that you might want to connect with and talk to and add to your network. So a really, really great place to do things like that is on LinkedIn. And if you don't already have a LinkedIn account, I highly recommend that you make one because of all of these useful features that I'm about to show you. So I first want to show you something that you can do to try to connect with other alumnics from CalArts, in addition to CalArts Connect, which Carolyn will be demonstrating after this presentation. You can also look for people on LinkedIn. So you can look up California Institute of the Arts on LinkedIn, and then scroll down a little bit and you can go to the alumni tab here. Okay, so when you are looking for people, like there are these several filters that kind of LinkedIn has preset. So say you're looking to move to the San Francisco Bay Area and you kind of want to find people around there, you can just select for these different criteria, or maybe you're looking for people that are working for a certain company or are working in a certain industry or studied a particular topic. You can just go through and kind of select whatever it is you're looking for. But you can also search directly for things that you're looking for. So let's say, for example, we want to find people that are graphic designers. We can, excuse me, graphic design. And just a kind of general thing with LinkedIn, if you want to search for a specific term, like in the exact way that it's written, like these two words in this order, you want to make sure that you put the quotation marks around it, because otherwise, if I were to just do graphic design without the quotation, it would pull up everything that has both the word graphic and design in it, and not necessarily always together. So you can use whatever term you want and then enter. And then you'll be able to scroll down and see these different people that meet whatever criteria you selected. So you can kind of scroll through and just see who's there. Sometimes there will be current students here, so you'll just kind of want to pay attention to when the year is that they graduate to see if they're actually alum or not, or if they're still current students. Um, but if you see someone that like has an interesting title or headline here and you want to click on them to learn more, you'll just click on their name. And then something that I find really valuable is just looking at people's experience history and seeing like what companies they've worked for, what different roles they've been in. And this is a good piece of kind of doing research on people before you try to have like an informational interview or like a longer conversation with them, because then you can ask them about like specific questions about their work history. And this person doesn't have too much detail in their experience history. A lot of people will have a bit more and kind of describe the different tasks and responsibilities they had. So you can potentially learn a lot from that. So if you find a person you're interested in talking more to them, learn more about them, you can on LinkedIn, it's really important when you want to connect with someone, which is basically like sending a friend request. You want to make sure that you're doing it from their profile. So if I click connect here, it gives me the option to add a note, which is really important when reaching out to a stranger. And this is where you'll put that, like one of those templates that I shared about reaching out to a stranger to start networking. And you do want to be aware, this is only 300 characters, so it is pretty short. It's not 300 words. So you'll have to be very selective and careful with what you're trying to fit in here. And then just a little LinkedIn etiquette. Again, if you want to connect with someone, do it from their profile, because if I were to just be looking at a bunch of profiles in tiles like this, if I were to click connect from here, it would just automatically send a connection request and wouldn't give me the opportunity to add a note. I'm not sure why it's like that, but it is. So just be careful. We don't want to click connect from tiles like this. So that's one route to find people is through the CalArts page and looking at the alumni tab. Another great thing that you can do is, we'll just stick with graphic design as a theme. You can look up groups on LinkedIn, which function very similarly to like Facebook groups or other social media groups that are arranged around interests or professional topics or careers or something. And sometimes these groups will be about just kind of like sharing information or having discussions. But other times they might have a focus on actually sharing like work opportunities and sharing jobs. This one, I believe, is not focused on sharing jobs. It's more kind of about just having conversations with other designers. But just to show you how it looks when you try to click on a group, you will almost always have to request to join. So just be prepared to do that. But these groups are a great place to find people that are active in your field and in your industry. And maybe you join this and you kind of see the conversations that are there, and you notice that like there's some people that like always contribute to conversations or like offer help to other people. Those are great people to also try to reach out to and try to connect with and have conversations with, and bring them into your network. So that's one route too. So the CalArts alums, and then also looking for groups on LinkedIn. And then the final one that I want to show you today is that you can also look up companies on LinkedIn. And very similar to how CalArts page was set up, they have these tabs here. And if you go to people over here, you can see it looks very similar to the alum one. So you can be filtering for certain people based on where they're working, what they studied, etc. But you can also look up like recruiters or people that are working in certain departments or in certain roles within the company. So these are, again, just great people to try to connect with and try to like reach personally, because sometimes like different company websites, they won't have like a directory on their website or won't have anyone's like personal contact information. So this is just a way to try to find those specific people and like try to connect with an actual like human instead of like a general kind of email or something. Um, so yes, so looking at these people and again, if they're working in company or position you're interested in, and just learning more about, just trying to reach out to them and talk to them and have these conversations. And they might be able to give you good insight into like the company's hiring practices, or maybe they have like a certain recruiting season or um, different websites that they usually post on. Um, so you can gain also knowledge like that and kind of learn more about that company and how they operate. So you can be on the lookout for opportunities with them. Okay, so that was LinkedIn and a few places that you or a few different avenues where you can try to find people to connect with. Another resource is CalArts Connect, which again will be demonstrated after I finish these slides. Okay, and then beyond just like LinkedIn or other online places, a great place or kind of entities to try to connect with are professional associations or professional organizations. So different professional organizations will often have like email lists or newsletters that they send out. So getting on those email lists to try to hear about different opportunities or events or just different happenings within your industry. Um, you can also try to, if they have like a member directory or something, you can try to look for those people, look for like staff or members. And those are, again, just another pool of people that you might possibly want to connect with. Also, definitely attending events that different organizations and associations have, and volunteering too, if you can. If they have any events or conferences that you can volunteer for, that's a really, really great thing to do, and just a great way to get yourself around the people that you want to be connecting with that are in your industry, and just showing that you're also involved in your industry and you're wanting to help out. So that's again just a great way to get yourself in front of people and around the people that you want to be around. And a little earlier this year, we put together this resource, the Networks and Professional Associations for Artists document. All of those associations are like links, they're actual links, hyperlinks to the association's page. So if you want to find this document and look at it and kind of check out those different organizations, this document is on Compass. So if you go to compass.calarts.edu and then the resources tab again, then document library, this document will be there. So you'll be able to find it and download it and use it. Check out all those organizations. Okay, and yet another avenue where you can try to connect with people is kind of, I mentioned it before a little bit, but going to workshops or events or conferences. And this can be, in the virtual space as well, but also like, especially in physical spaces. But this slide is more kind of geared toward the virtual space. So if there's an event or a workshop or conference you're attending that has like chats, and you notice that people, well, firstly, you can also participate and pose meaningful questions in the chat, answer other people's questions, just generally add to the conversation, share resources, and also notice who else is doing that too. And then you kind of like keep a note for yourself, like, okay, maybe that's someone I should follow up with and try to ask for their like contact information to have a more in-depth conversation. So you can always like, if the feature is available, like try to private message them and maybe ask if you can exchange emails so you can connect more later, whatever the case may be. Also, if you notice people participating a lot and you have like their name, you can look them up on LinkedIn and try to connect with them and engage with them there, or like other social media. And also important to note that you can do this both, like, of course, with presenters and speakers, but also participants too. If it's like a conference or workshop around a certain profession or industry, most likely their participants are also knowledgeable as well. So yeah, just again, yet another avenue to try to find these people and connect with them. Okay, so that was a lot about sort of like how and where to connect. Now I want to talk a bit about how to follow up and how to maintain these relationships beyond this like first initial conversation and initial connection. Um, so if it was something like you met at a conference or an event or something, you want to try to follow up like within 1 to 2 days, ideally like within 24 hours, just so that they like remember who you are or like why you're reaching out. Um, Again, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. If you're emailing them, you want to make sure that you have your contact information in the email. So, like links to your LinkedIn or website or social media in your signature so that they can know where to find more information about you. Um, and also, you can, if it's a person that is kind of has more of a social media presence, or like maybe their business has a social media or something, definitely like liking and following them on social media um, is a good practice too, and a good way to stay up to date with what they're doing and kind of have like just more topics to talk about with them. Okay, so that was kind of following up immediately. Now I want to talk a bit more about maintaining those relationships and making them much more long term. So, as I mentioned before, setting personal goals for yourself to check in with people if it doesn't come like super naturally to you to reach out and just have conversations with people. Definitely setting those goals. Maybe again, it's like 1 to 2 people per month, or just something that's manageable for you. Um, it's also good to just be sharing news about yourself periodically with different people. And of course, keeping tabs on others for news so that you have, again, more things to talk about with them. If you're the person who is so inclined and likes to send seasonal greeting cards, definitely adding people that you meet to your mailing list and just sending those so that they kind of like get this reminder of you every year. And again, you're just you try to keep yourself in their mind. Um, Also, engaging with people on social media, cheering for them, commenting, liking their stuff. People will notice that if you continually do that. Also, again, sharing resources. As I was saying before, like if you just kind of come across an article or like read something interesting that makes you think of someone or makes you remember someone, just sending them an email with that linked there and saying like, hey, I saw this and thought of you. How are you doing? And kind of getting that connection warmed up again. You can also, this is a much more active process, but you can form professional peer groups. So if you are like a writer, say, and you want to kind of have other writers from CalArts, you can form groups and like check in with each other, hold each other accountable to different things or different goals that you've set. Um, this is just a great way to really like have a much deeper connection with people for a much longer time. Okay, now I want to issue you all a challenge. This is, of course, challenge by choice. I will not be following up to see if you did this. But if this presentation, while I was talking at any time, made you think of someone, I want you to try to reach out to them. You can just use this quick, short template here. But hopefully you thought of people. Hopefully you thought of people during this presentation, and you can just kind of copy these words and send them out to them. Um, it it might lead to some great things. You never know. Um, and with that, that is all that I had for my section of the presentation. Okay, we got a question from Lyle. Do you think networking during the pandemic is even more difficult than before? I think that it depends. Certainly, like kind of the more casual, like in-person bumping into people networking is more challenging than it was before. But I think that like reaching out to people through email and like through social media and like at virtual events has become a lot easier. And I think that it's easier to connect with people that are like farther away too. like people globally, you can kind of just send an email to anytime. Um, and I think that people are more used to communicating that way now. So I think actually like moving forward, um, like virtual meetings will still be common and still be something that happens a lot. Um, hopefully, hopefully we will have not lost that. um, but yeah, so I think that maybe some ways more difficult, but I think other ways has gotten um, easier too, or at least like easier to reach out to like a wider number of people. Yay. Okay, now I think we have a couple in the chat. Any idea how to find a business consultant who specializes in creative businesses? Finding a hard time finding this on LinkedIn and maybe not looking right away. Business consultant who specializes in creative businesses. I am not, my honestly, like my advice kind of right now, I don't really know anything off the top of my head, but just I always Google things personally, and just look for, yeah, creative business consultants. Um, oh, thank you, Anne. Yeah, Kathy Heller is amazing for that.
We had a presenter in a previous talk, Michelle Rosenschmier, who
Mm.
specializes in this, and she's a CalArts grad. She went on to get an MBA, and she offers specific coaching in a variety of areas dealing with entrepreneurship. So I can include her contact info in the follow-up email to everyone.
Yes. Any other questions for right now? Um, totally fine. If not, again, my email is there. Um, but great. Thank you all so much for listening to me talk for that whole time. And I hope to hear more from you soon. You can always add me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there too.
So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. Okay, so on CalArts Connect, really the heart of this platform is the directory feature. It's a sister platform to CalArts Compass, which Natasha spoke about earlier. And I'm just going to quickly show you guys how to utilize the directory and use the directory to find folks to connect with. So you're going to go into the directory tab. And I think that the two most important areas to filter upon are people offering help. So if you click down, you can, in the Get Involved, you can look for people who are offering networking introductions, looking for collaborators who would be willing to answer specific industry questions, review work for professional feedback, and the list, kind of goes on. So I'm gonna just select answer industry specific questions. And from here, the other area that I think is the most helpful for finding people to connect with is actually the skills section. So if you click into CalArts and you go down to the skills section, we have a really long list of different types of skills across métiers at CalArts. And let's just click animation. And we'll click 3D animation as well. So if you have an interest in connecting with somebody who works in 2D and 3D animation, and you want to filter for somebody who would be happy to help you, this is, I think, the best way to find folks. And as you can see, I got 52 users that popped up with that particular skill set who would be willing to answer industry specific questions. And from there, you can click into the profiles and kind of refine who you want to connect with. And I would suggest reaching out to multiple people just in case, somebody doesn't get back to you, that one person doesn't get back to you, you have other folks to reach out to. So we have all kinds of really interesting folks to reach out to, just based on the filters. And if you are interested in like location, you can filter by location and things like that. And you can filter by student, alumni, faculty or staff. if you want to refine it even further. So that's basically it. That's my networking screen share for CalArts Connect. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share, and I'm going to share with you guys another document as well. And this is a few templates for when you are going to reach out to people. So these templates are similar to the ones that Natasha shared in her presentation. And they're just, templates to get you started. You can adapt them as you need them. But if you, see somebody on CalArts Connect that you want to reach out to, or somebody that, you were acquainted with in school and that you haven't spoken to, there's just some sample language to get you going. And then the last thing I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys. Okay, so the last link that I'm sending you is just the link to the networking folder in the resource library. Okay. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap things up? All right.
We got a question in the chat about how do you sign up to CalArts Connect?
All right. Okay. So if you just go to the website, it's just, I'll type it in the chat, calartsconnect.com. So if you click on the link, there is a sign up feature that you'll come to. I would suggest, and you can sign up through Facebook, you can sign up through email, or you can sign up through LinkedIn. I would actually suggest signing up through LinkedIn, because if you have a LinkedIn profile, it will pull in all of your past work history with the LinkedIn connection, and it'll pull in your profile picture. So you basically don't have to set up anything when you go through LinkedIn. You don't have to fill anything out. Whatever's in LinkedIn will be pulled over. Give us anywhere from 1 to 2 working days to get you guys approved, because we do filter to make sure that everybody who's trying to get into the directory system is a CalArtian. And you should be good to go from there to be able to access it. And CalArts Connect, I can share my screen again and just walk you through it really quickly, everything that's kind of on here. So CalArts Connect, there's a feed, which is kind of just like something you would see on like your Facebook or your LinkedIn, just where people can post things. The directory, which we just demoed. We have photo albums, so you can, find different photos or post your photos from your time at CalArts. Like there's something from the 40th reunion, CalArts 2020. So you can, go into different albums, add stuff, or start your own album. There's a group feature, so we have different groups. So you can find alums based on region and sometimes interest. And if you don't see a group and you'd be interested in starting a group and kind of helping facilitate it, we can get that set up for you as well. There's different events, so you can post your events and you can see what other events people are doing. So it looks like there's some really cool stuff going on. There's some Red Cap stuff posted, and then there's some alumni events posted. These are so pretty, these images. This is just breathtaking, the colors and stuff. Really cool. Our talk is on here, so that's great. And then there's some other things as well. There's a business directory. So if you are a CalArtian and you have a business, you can list your directory. And if you have any specials, like 10% off, 20% off for CalArtians, you can post like links and stuff and codes and stuff for discount. And then you can just go through and see who else has businesses set up in here. And let's see, the resource library is the last thing. So this is something that my office has been working on in consultation with the Patty Disney Center for Life and Work. And we have just different topics that we've been working to build out over the last year or so. And I'll go ahead and go into like grant funding, because that's a really good one. You always want to sort alphabetically in these, because there's a folder index. I'll go ahead and open up the folder index for grant funding basics. And the folder index will give you a flow of info for all of the resources in the folder. If it's a particularly complicated topic like grant writing, the flow of info will help you, work through this subject. So it's good to look, here first, see how it starts with just kind of introduction, large picture info. Then it goes into understanding different types of funders, different types of grants you can apply for, how you find a grant, how you, as an individual, you would work with this fiscal sponsor. Once you get all of that squared away, how you'd send a letter of inquiry to see if the org would be interested in your kind of project, and then nuts and bolts in writing your proposal, a little bit about grant budgets, and then once you get your grant, reporting and stewarding that grant funder. So that's basically it for CalArts Connect. I'll go ahead and toggle back over. So it has all of these different features in it, which are so helpful, and resources, which are great. But really the heart of CalArts Connect is the directory feature and being able to find other CalArtians with similar, career goals or similar creative projects and creative practices to yours, and then being able to connect with them. That's basically it. I hope you all enjoyed our presentation.
Yeah, and then sorry, Carolyn, we have a couple more questions that were in the chat. So the first was, are there any resources provided by CalArts if you're looking to hire alums? So you can post a position on Compass. So it's the compass.calarts.edu. And the only difference is that instead of logging in as an alum, you would log in as an employer. So that's just kind of a slightly different account setup process. And when you are setting up that account, you can also make job postings. And there's several features, like when you're looking for candidates, where you can select that you only want alums or that you're open to both students and alums. So you can do that on Compass as well as an employer. Nice. And then another question, sorry, one more. Is there a phone number for the alumnix office? Or
I would
all
say
kind of mostly doing email?
Go ahead and email us, and we can reach out to you. We are all on a VoIP system right now because we're not working on site. And I know I prefer to call people from my cell phone instead of through the VoIP system because it, I don't like how it's set up. So if you want to get in touch with one of us, I would say email us, and I'll go ahead and throw our office email in the chat as well. So alumnix@calarts.edu is the best place to go. All right, it looks like that's everything. So just once again, thank you all so much for joining us. I really appreciate having all of you with us. And thank you again, Natasha, for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joanne. Thank you all for being here. I hope you have a good rest of your week and take care.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye.